how you gonna tell me where to have my baby? Whatever. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Baby Justice is dealing with gas right now, so he's not feeling too good. But hey, it's the real deal. This is how motherhood really is. So that wasn't going to stop me from doing the home birth Q&A. So you guys have sent me a lot of questions. Some questions were the same, so I just combined them or whatever. And I want to shout out to Jamaica for giving me this idea. I didn't think that many people would be that interested in finding out these answers, but nevertheless, I'm happy to be able to give these answers to you guys. But I do want to make sure to let you know that the answers that I provide are going to be from my experience, and everyone's experience may be different depending on the midwife that you all have, or it may also depend on the location that you guys are in. So just keep that in mind. All right, so the first question that I have is, how did you convince your husband to have a home birth? I think that is hilarious. So first off, I didn't really convince him. I just kind of told him, and I provided all of the resources that I had. I had already booked the midwife and everything, and I told him that that's what we were going to do. But what I think made it a lot easier is because he already knew that I wanted to have a home birth with our first child. But you know, when I told him, I just told him that, oh, I know I can do it. I've seen a ton of YouTube videos and it's something that I just want to do. But I think that with him seeing me go through the process and knowing that how I would handle the pain or the contractions or whatever you want to call it, it was much easier for him to, you know, say, okay, I see how she handles this. I think that she'll be able to do it. So that kind of, I guess, smoothed things over for him and kind of made it easier for him to kind of just tag along. But I didn't really ask him, but I guess of convincing him, I kind of showed him that, hey, I'm capable of doing this, and I wasn't high risk or anything. And that all plays a factor into, you know, depending on if you are going to be a candidate for a home birth. So I hope that answers your question. The second question is, why didn't you have a doula? Now, I have to tell you this. So when I was researching and figuring out, like trying to get all of my resources together to find out if I was going to do the home birth or not, I actually interviewed a doula. I found a ton of different doulas, but I just couldn't find a midwife. And so I was like, hey, what the heck? Like, let me just try to find a doula. Like, let me just go ahead and interview this doula. I had watched her for a while on social media, and I'm like, okay, I kind of like her vibe from what she posts. Let's see, you know, if I could hire her or not. So come to find out, hired her, and I knew within maybe like 15 minutes, we did a virtual interview too, because Corona had, you know, hit heavy at this time. And so like 15 minutes in, I knew like, okay, I don't really need a doula. Like, you know what I mean? But to each its own, I want to say that. And so if you don't really know, that's how I knew like I wanted a midwife. And if you don't really know, a midwife is someone who focuses on delivering a healthy baby. A doula, on the other hand, provides support to the mother throughout her labor or pregnancy, beforehand, or even afterwards. And so that can just be supporting you mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that good stuff. Just kind of being an advocate or a second voice for the mother, or even the primary voice, because the doula and the mother would talk very often. So she kind of is the one, or he, whatever, more than likely a she, would be the one communicating to the doctors or midwives or whoever, like what the mother wants. So I knew me, and I knew that I didn't really need that extra support in that aspect. Like, I had a whole rhythm of how I kind of got through my first birth. It's like I'm the one, I like for my husband to be there now. Don't get me wrong. I liked his support and having him there, but like having a whole bunch of other people kind of like being that voice for me, I didn't really need that. I kind of could handle that on my own. So that was another thing. And I felt like, okay, more so what I need to look for after having that conversation with her, I was like, more so what I need is a midwife. I mean, she kept saying, hey, well, you want to have a home birth, or you want to have a hospital birth, or you want to go to a birth center. She asked me all those things, and I told her, no, I want to mainly focus on, I just want to have a home birth. And so she said, well, I have a connection of midwives in the area. So, pretty much if you sign this contract and hire me, I'll provide those resources to you. And at that point, I was like, I'm working from home. I can do the extra digging, and I'll find me one. If it's meant to be, God knows the desires of my heart is gonna be. So I didn't hire her. And so I saved a good amount of money by not hiring a doula. Now, to each his own. Like I said, if you want that type of support, go for it and have one. But I knew my main focus was to look for a midwife, because I needed someone to be able to actually deliver the baby. A doula does not deliver your baby for you. They can't do that. You have to have like certifications and all that type of thing to be able to actually deliver a child. So that's why I did not have a doula. The third question is, does insurance cover midwives? Now, this is an amazing question. So first thing, I'm all about trying to save myself some money when I first start doing my research. And unfortunately, my insurance, y'all know it's all about money. When I researched and I called and talked to somebody, they said, oh no, we don't support home births. We more so support births that are given in hospitals. Y'all know, definitely is a money catch, right? How you gonna tell me where to have my baby? Whatever. So unfortunately, my insurance did not cover the midwife services. But I will say that they did cover, like, for my lab work and all of that kind of stuff. The insurance did cover for that. Now, the pricing of different midwives, it just depends on location, what they offer, and all of that jazz. But I have seen, that's just to tell you about my insurance company. Now with other insurance companies, I have seen it where people, even in my location, were able to have their midwife services covered fully by, having a midwife. So don't let that discourage you. It might be your insurance or whatever, but hey, also you have to be able to make sure that your midwife will accept insurance. So it just depends on the midwife, the location, your insurance, all of that jazz. But I would definitely do the research and try to figure out if they can, to save yourself some money if you could. But like I said, it didn't cover it. So I paid for those services. The next question is, with a midwife, did you also have a OB for your prenatal visits and checkups? No, I did not. Long story short is, when I first found out that I was pregnant, I went to my OB that I had at the time, the same one who delivered Jackson and so on and so forth. But after I found out that I was initially pregnant, saw the heartbeat, all of that good jazz, I fired them. It was a done deal. I was like, I'm not going back to you guys. That's it. In my brain, I knew it. So that's when I put in the work to find the midwife. Now, midwives are responsible for doing the whole, the same thing an OB would, like the checkups on you and all of that stuff, to make sure that your pregnancy is progressing how it's supposed to be. So like I said, they do the lab work and they do the urine tests and all that stuff. So with my midwife, since coronavirus happened, like I said, everything was done virtually. So what my midwife did is she sent me everything that I would need. A blood pressure pump. She sent me a scale. She sent me a Doppler. She sent me the thing that the sticks that you use, I don't know what they're called, to do your urine test every checkup. We did all of that stuff each visit. Oh, and we even measured my stomach to make sure that it was growing how it was supposed to do, all on virtually, all on the camera. So she did all of those things. So I did not need an OB. She was pretty much my OB. So like I say it as midwives kind of do the same thing that your OB does. Like, so I did not need an OB. My midwife was that for me, and so much more. Next question is, what were your prenatal visits like, and how long and how often were they? So my prenatal I just kind of told you, like, she did all of the checkups with me, where she would go over my weight, she would talk to me, ask me how I'm feeling, and all of that stuff. And my appointments were an hour long, and I guess I had an appointment in the first 28 weeks once every 4 weeks, and then I could think it went down to up to 36 weeks. We met once every 2 weeks, and then when you got to 36 weeks, up until delivery, it was meeting every single week. So we did that, and each visit was an hour long. Now, with those visits, what I liked about my midwife personally, she documented everything. Oh, he fell asleep. I didn't even notice. I was just talking. But she documented everything. And so how we kind of like stayed in touch and stuff, like she would put it into like a portal that she had on her website. And so some stuff, it just felt like we were just having a conversation, and come to find out she was documenting every single thing that we talked about. And with Pregnancy Brain, that was so helpful for me, because like I would forget, like I would have these questions and I would ask her the questions and I would know the answer during the appointment, but then afterwards I would be like, okay, what did I ask her? What did she say again? And come to find out, I would go into that little portal, and she would put down everything that I asked, and like per verbatim, which was amazing, where I could always go back into reference, you know, kind of what we were speaking about. And so we talked about other stuff too during our visits, but nevertheless, she got them done, and she got them done virtually. So hey, your midwife would be able to do all of the things that an OB can do. The next question is, what was included in your midwife package? So the things that were included were, of course, all of the initial consultation, which that's when I first met her. We got on the webcam just for me to get a feel for her, to see if I was going to hire her. I got to ask her a ton of questions. She asked me a lot of questions about, you know, my health history and that type of thing, and my last birth and that stuff. So she could kind of, I guess, determine also, to be realistic with me, to know if I was even a candidate for having a home birth. So we did that. The initial consultation was included. The second thing that was included was she did like a nutritional and like the health assessment. That all was kind of bundled in one, where she told me kind of like the things that I should be eating and things to kind of watch up from or kind of peel back from during my pregnancy. The third thing was all of my appointments were included. And I just gave you a rundown of like how often we met and how long. And so then the routine lab work was also included, which was covered by my insurance company. So I didn't have to pay for any of that stuff. So she included all of that. And then she includes 4 visits for like postpartum. So the first one was like within the first 24 hours of having your child, she's gonna do a checkup on you to kind of see how things are going, to monitor you. The second appointment postpartum, it's kind of like, you know, checking up on the baby to kind of see how, and I forget, they kind of spaced out a little bit, so you have enough time after that first one. I think it's like a week within the second visit, and it's kind of asking, how's the baby eating, how's everything going. And then you have the last 2, and that more so, if I had any questions, I could just ask her the questions. And not only that, she would ask about baby justice, because my midwife is also a pediatrician. So yeah, I feel like I got like the whole package in her. Like, she just brought forth everything that I needed, you hear me? So that's kind of like, you know, the things that were included in her package. And I could talk to her anytime. I could reach out to her, and like I would tell her, like, I'm not trying to be a nuisance about this or whatever, but I would text her, she would text me right back. I would call her, she would like answer, and that type of thing. So there were no that's very important for you to know like how you would communicate with like your midwife or doula or whoever, because some people, like my OB, I know when I had an OB, I can only like send them like a message and I'll hear back within like 48 hours. Or if I would call them or something, they would get a doctor and have the doctor call me back. It was never like in an instant being able to like just have somebody. And I didn't even know that my midwife, she also had a doula as the birthing assistant, Jamie, who was amazing as well. And so that's another thing. I'm happy that I kind of looked up and didn't get a doula, because she pretty much brought an extra person with her, so I didn't need that extra doula or whoever, you know, to kind of give me that support. She was there for me, and that's important for you to be able to ask your midwife if she includes that. Like, does she bring a birthing assistant, or, you know, that type of thing. That's very, very vital to know. The next question is, oh Lord, these phones done closed up on me. Okay. You said that you tore during your first birth. What if you would have tore? Would you have had to transfer to a hospital? Now that is so funny, because listen, she asked me like what was one of the main things that I was concerned about, and I had two things that I was concerned about, and that was one of my main things. Like, that was such a traumatic experience for me with my first birth, that like that was top notch. I did not want to tear, like by any means necessary. I was like I don't want to tear. So I talked to her about that, and she told me that, hey, more times than likely, like people having a home birth, you will not tear. Now, she didn't say 100% of the time, but more times likely than not, because she said that during home birth, you're kind of just letting your body do what it does, and you're not like trying to rush the labor, which in the hospital, I did kind of feel like they were doing that. Like, I was getting tired or whatever, but I felt like they would come in, constantly want to check me and all this unnecessary stuff, where I felt like, oh my gosh, I gotta have this baby like right now. Like, I need to go ahead and try to progress my labor. So she told me that it was likely that I wouldn't tear or whatever. So that was really, really, really good. But if I would have, she would have been able to stitch me up herself. So I wouldn't have had to transfer to a hospital. I guess like if it was really, really severe, then maybe I would have, but she had all of the tools there to be able to do that for me. And good thing I did tear like a little teensy bit, but nothing. Like, I couldn't even feel it. It felt like after I had the baby, I didn't feel nothing. I felt like I didn't even push out a baby, which that was another thing why I recommended home birth. But on to the next question. Let's see. I thought you weren't able to eat during labor. I saw you had Jeremy get grapes. And it's so funny because my friend texted me and she was like, I know you didn't eat the grapes that Jeremy gave you. Yes, I did. I ate the grapes, okay? Y'all just didn't see it on camera, but guess what? Your girl was eating those grapes. So I always thought that you couldn't eat either during labor, but I guess that's maybe like a hospital thing. And when I just had the grapes there, she didn't say anything to me. She was just like, get her what she needs. You know what I mean? It's not like I was eating like a Philly cheesesteak or nothing like that. I was just eating grapes. But I don't know the reason why why the hospital tells you that you can't eat, because that was the case with me in my first. And I was so freaking hungry, and it made me frustrated even the more. So I don't know. I did eat the grapes, and I didn't have a problem with that. So she didn't have a problem with it. She didn't say anything. So I was able to eat, and I was able to drink how I wanted to drink. And guess what? We got a healthy baby here, okay? So I don't know why the hospital tells you that. I heard someone tell me this, but I'm not for sure about this. Somebody said that because if you have like a C-section or something like that, they don't want that to kind of interfere. I'm not sure if that's true, but I would do more research on that if I was you. The next question is, what if someone else went into labor while you did? That is a good question, because I asked her too, because she's one woman, okay? And what she told me is in the beginning is that she only takes on 4 babies a month. And the funny part is somebody actually was in labor the same time that I was in labor. But they had to go to the hospital and had to have a C-section, I believe, or something like that. Where I think that my birth, like her progress was like really, really slow, but mine was like bam, bam, bam. And it's so funny because the other 2 people, they were supposed to be due way before me, like maybe like a week and a half before I was, but I had my baby first. And I was supposed to be the last one. And no, they weren't like first time moms. They were second time moms too. So it was like, oh my gosh, the babies can come quick and at any time. But with that being said, she would have had an assistant come in. So I asked her that. So she has like a backup midwife that would have been able to kind of tend to me. So that's important too, to be able to ask your midwife, how many births do you really take on in a month? What if it's 3 of us go in labor at the same time? How do you kind of decide who you're gonna come to and that type of thing? That's very, very important to know, especially if you're kicking out that money to them. So good question. The next question is, how did your midwife monitor the baby during your labor? So if you don't know, in the hospital you have all these cords and everything wrapped around your stomach where they're constantly monitoring your baby, like the heart rate and all of that stuff, to make sure that it's all good. So I don't know if you've seen in that little preview, I might like insert it here again, where they are kind of like trying to check on me like in between my contractions with the Doppler. And so she did do that. Another thing is, I asked her beforehand, because I hated this at the hospital, when they would come in and check you constantly to see like how much you're dilated. I hated that. That was like the worst pain ever, where they're constantly checking you. Okay, you're 5 centimeters. Okay, you're 6 centimeters. Okay, you're 7 centimeters. Like, I asked her that, and she told me like, okay, when she was here, she was like, if you want me to do that, I can. If you don't, we are good to go. It's not a big deal. We're not on a time schedule here. We're not rushing you to have this baby. And so when she said that, I was like, oh no, I don't need you to do that. Like, I remember how painful that felt. That was so annoying in the hospital. And if you're in the hospital, you can tell them that you don't want them to do that, just so you know. So she didn't do that, but she did like the Doppler, and I guess, my labor was like kind of fast, so that's all she needed to know. He was sounding good, I was pretty good, and that's kind of how she monitored him. The next question is, where did you get the birthing pool? So my midwife has like a distributor, so she put me in contact with the person who had the birthing pools. It's crazy because I didn't even get to use the birthing pool, but she put me in contact with the person, and so I was like, I'm always trying to save $1, right? And so I tried to look up, once they told me like the type of pools that they were, I tried to look them up online, and them things are so expensive. You cannot just get them for the low, right? You just can't. So the person dropped off the pool. I went with one of her people, and it was like $250, I believe, to get my pool. And she brought the pool to me, and she picked it up. So, and as you know, I wasn't able to use my pool, and because there was something wrong with it, and my midwife communicated that to the distributor, and I got my money back. So hey, that was a good thing as well. But another thing, if you don't want to get like one of those expensive pools, I've seen people like on YouTube videos who have used like the kiddie pools. Now, like a big enough pool where you can submerge in the pool and then still have enough water. But I've seen those little kiddie pools being used, and hey, they work just as fine too. But the main thing I think is to have that that liner in there, that so it doesn't contaminate anything. And when you do have the baby, they can kind of lift that liner up and just dispose of the water. I think that's what is mainly important. And the next question is the placenta encapsulation process. Now, the placenta, I talked about it a little bit in my postpartum video. Y'all, I'm so pumped about the whole placenta thing. Like, it's crazy. Like I said, so I just talked to my midwife about it, and she was an advocate for it. She recommended a person for me. And so after delivering the placenta, she took it to the person that was gonna encapsulate it for me, and that person dropped it off to me. And after that, she came, she talked to me, told me how many I could take. She had them in a little container. She told me that I could keep them in the refrigerator as well. And so that's what I do. I do keep mine in the refrigerator. I can take 3 to 6 of those mugs a day, and it should be able to help me. And that was pretty much it. It was very, very simple. It cost like $200 to $250. But like I said, I feel like it was really, really worth it, because I feel like they're my little pick-me-up pills or whatever. And I didn't talk about this in my postpartum video, but I do feel like it helped me to heal quicker. I don't know if I talked about it. I can't remember. But it helped me to heal quicker. Like, y'all, I stopped bleeding after 3 days. Y'all, it was crazy. Like, I was like, whoa, is it really these pills that's doing this for me? Like, it was so amazing. So really, after 3 days. And I mean, hey, I think you're supposed to bleed for a little while. I don't even really remember. I just know it was not like that with my first child. But that could have been because of the tearing and all of a whole bunch of craziness. You know what I mean? You're not following me. You're not following. I got you. So yeah, I stopped bleeding. So like, I wasn't bleeding no more, and I felt good about that. And I have my postpartum items that I use too. I'll put up that video as well. But I wasn't bleeding. It stopped my bleeding. Like I said, everybody is different, but for me, it worked tremendously. And like I said, I take those pills like, you know, every single day, or when I just need me a pick me up. And I don't take them before bed because it'll make you feel jittery. I haven't tried it out, but I've heard like enough people say that, so I just kind of just stay away from that. And I don't know what else to kind of say about the placenta thing. My placenta was very, very, very large, so I got a good amount of pills, like 180 pills out of it. And I'll show you another like clip of the pills or whatever. Here, I'll link it in here. But hey, it helped me out. I don't know what specific questions you kind of want to know about it, but it did help me out. And it's got to be somebody in your area who does it. I would just do my research, and the person that she had, it was just easy. So I didn't like interview a couple of people. I just went with who she had, and I was just like, yeah, do what you gotta do, you know. So that was that process. The next question is, was your son there during labor? No. So it's funny because I went to labor. I started at like maybe 3 something in the morning, and then he went to daycare. I had Justice on a Friday, and so, y'all, my camera cut off on me while I was recording. So let's get back into it. I was on the question of, was my son here with us during my labor? No, he was not. He was at daycare. Daycare is right up the street. And even if he was here during labor, I had enough people in the house to be able to, like, you know, watch him or whatever. But no, unfortunately, he was not here. But that's why you see the scene and at the end of my home birth video with him like meeting baby Justice for the first time. So yeah, he wasn't here. But I guess if you're asking, would it have been okay with me for him to be here? I'm like, totally. Like, yeah, I wouldn't have seen a problem with him actually being here afterwards. Not afterwards, during. The last question is, any resources that I recommend. I always say, just do your research. And by resources, I would start with, I wouldn't say like, hey, you got to go out and buy like these books or anything. Like, if you're interested in doing it, hey, you have Google things. Hey, use social media, use YouTube, use Instagram, Facebook, and also just use the people that you know. I know that home births kind of seem like a thing of the past nowadays, but use people. You would be surprised if someone, you know, if you know someone that's a nurse, they may know a midwife or that type of thing. So don't be afraid to ask people for help. Like I said, when I knew that I saw a girl in my area who had a home birth, so I did not hesitate. I reached out to her, introduced myself, told her that I admired her for her experience and it's something that I want to do. And she was very forthcoming with that information. And so don't be scared to reach out to people and be an advocate for yourself. So you can watch, like, there's stuff on like Netflix and all of these documentaries. Like, one was like, I believe pregnant in America, where you can just kind of do your research to kind of see like, hey, is it something for you? And I'm telling you, if you watch those YouTube videos of like, or even if you watch my video, like the little clips that I inserted, and you feel like, oh, I don't know if I could do that, like, it's not for everybody, you know what I mean? So just, you got to know your pain level, like how you deal with pain. Like, I know, like, I'm kind of on the strong side when it comes to that type of stuff. So, you know, do your research. And those are the things that I would start with. I mean, and hey, I guess like once you do that type of thing, then you'll be able to find out, you know, like, hey, is this for me, or if it's not for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, if you have more questions or if I didn't answer something, please leave it in the comment section below. Like, I'll respond to you in that aspect. And if you forgot something, or you have a question to just pop in your head, don't be shy. Leave it in the comment section below. As always, sending light and love your way, you guys. I love you, beautiful people, and I will see you next time. Mwah.